people 18 and over. So that's pretty impressive. And the kids, the 5 to 11s, were almost at 20%. So I think the Omegosh variant, oh wait, Omicron variant is, sorry, is good for business. I mean, a little bit of fear motivates people. So um, we have big news on the Pfizer frontier. So they're calling it the Tris Sucrase. I hadn't seen that. I'd seen them call it Tris Pfizer. Anyway, there is a new formulation of adult vaccine coming out in gray cap formulation so that it will be easy to tell that you're using the old adult purple cap or the new gray cap. And of course, the orange cap being the kids. So it's all color coded, which is smart of them. And that is supposed to start almost Christmas Eve, December 23rd. So that'll be our Christmas present this year, a new Pfizer adult dose. Um, and it's fully licensed and it's for 12 years and up. So there you go. It's not EUA. It's fully licensed by uh, the hello, I'm forgetting.
FDA. Yeah.
FDA, thank you, God. All right. So it's got a gray cap. We can get minimum order sizes of 300 doses, which is great. No more of the 1170s or the 450s. So we have smaller dose sizes that can be ordered. No diluent. That is so cool. No, it'll be so much easier to pull 6 doses of a vial, and it's still the same volume, the zero point 0.3 mLs, and it's good for up to 10 weeks in your fridge. Up to 10 weeks in your fridge. So you should be able to order it and get it out the door without having to ever freeze it. Now, and you can freeze it at ultra low for up to 6 months, but I think all but the largest providers are not going to need to freeze it at all. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's the tricky part. Okay, here's the transition. They're saying that jurisdictions and providers should use up the purple cap one, the old one that we've been using, prior to transitioning to gray. Now, we'll worry about it at the jurisdiction level, meaning the state level. But basically, what you should do is you should use up all those purple cap ones and then order. Now, do you get down to zero exactly before you order? I don't know. We'll have to get you details. That'll be Joelle getting more details as we get closer. But you're going to want to use up those Pfizer adult purple caps before you go to the gray caps. They are strongly discouraging having both on the shelves at the same time. Obviously, for obvious reasons, you could mix things up. Not a good idea. Um, so that there's going to be more information coming out as we go. So next slide, please. So this lays it out here in the handy dandy chart. You can see our current formulation of purple, and then the future formulations. Obviously, orange is now is the present. We're already doing orange for our kids, right? The 5 to 11, and then we've got the gray.
Sorry.
So, so we got the gray coming up for adults, and as you can see, it's the same zero point 0.3 ml. The full fill volume is a little different, but because you're not diluting, so that's where you're going to end up at the fill volume. So there's 6 doses per vial, and you're going to keep it 10 weeks in the refrigerator. All right, or 6 months in the ultra low if you're using that. So same thing. Use up those purple cap doses before you start getting into tri-cap, tri-adult, tris-adult. God, I think they should have consulted us on the naming, but they didn't. So the immunization team will definitely help with inventory redistribution. So if you've got a bunch of purple caps, we'll see if we can help you give them away to people who need in the next couple weeks Pfizer doses and don't have them. So be alert for opportunities to share your purple caps so we all go down and run out of them pretty close together. Like they said, only carrying one adult formulation at a time to avoid administration errors. See that word ideally, but we'll do the best we can. Um, the thermal shipping containers cannot be used for temporary storage of our new product of the gray cap. Okay, a vaccine has to be stored either in the ultra low freezer or the fridge. Yeah, and this is just kind of restating it again. They're retiring the purple cap on December 23rd. Both the 1170s and the 450s, both of those are going away as of December 23rd. And the adult one is going to launch on the 23rd. And then peds are already here. So that's what I've got. And thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you. Sorry, we had all the data slides that you just did off the top of your head. So
Okay.
literally, yes, the vaccine team was not available for today. So we're kind of the messengers of this big change, but Joelle will be back next week. All right, so I will, some of this will be repetitive, but I'll just kind of try to get through it quickly today. This is really just trying to, the current landscape of COVID across the country. On the left here was last week, on the right is this week or this Sunday. And, again, we were kind of ahead of this curve with having a second little Delta surge, but the rest of the country is keeping pace, unfortunately. And then, the big question is like, is this all Omicron? But definitely there's lots of active sequencing going on, and still 99% of variants in the country are Delta, as everyone has heard. So not to, we haven't sequenced one yet in New Mexico, at least as of this morning, but imagine that it won't be long. So the Omicron variant, again, earliest sample so far identified, I think, was in Botswana on the 11th. It was sequenced in South Africa and named a WHO variant of concern just a couple days later. And then the CDC announced the first US case on 12/1. This is just a world map of where it is, probably outdated since I made the slide a couple days ago. In the United States, we're now at 19 states reporting cases. And I guess one of the key things is there definitely is community spread. They're not all travelers, although, the first ones and many subsequent ones have been linked to travel, but now, just spread within the US. So, and again, there's so many unknown questions about its virulence and transmissibility. And so still just waiting to know more about that. This is looking at our cases per day and test positivity. So, as for people who track the cases by day, the cases last week were up in the, we actually went over 2,000 a couple of days, so higher than they've been in a while. Some of this is sometimes just the funkiness of having a weekend where people aren't testing, which is what happened over Thanksgiving. And then kind of the catch up that happens with that. So we'll see how this week goes. But test positivity has really remained, I'm not sure, this is CDC data, this high spike at 25%. I haven't been tracking in the state, but we have been consistently up in the high teens. For age groups, again, we continue to see the 5 to 11-year-olds adjusted for 100,000 population does remain one of the largest, has the largest number of daily cases. And those numbers look like they were coming down. The reports are pulled on Tuesday, and I didn't get it redone today. So this is using last Tuesday's data, and we'll see whether this is the cases coming down here is, partly artifact from the low testing over the holiday weekend, or, maybe it's real. Our effective did go below 1. Presbyterian also tracks this and had a similar, this is from COVID Act Now because it's easy and accessible for getting the data. I really love this website. It's got lots of publicly available and, often tracks very closely. I mean, it's ultimately coming from state reported data. But the suggestion is that we're actually on the upswing again, rather than continuing down below 1. Here's our weekly, so switching to vaccine, this is the weekly doses. And as Dan alluded to, I mean, we just continue to do a huge volume of vaccine. So we got up to about 85,000 doses a couple weeks ago. Even over Thanksgiving, that week was 66,000. And continue above 60,000. So again, just a huge thank you to everyone participating in that effort. Like, we were just 3 times, and the demand remains high. A lot of our sort of new efforts, you see a couple weeks of interest and then it drops off, but it does seem like we're continuing to see a high interest in boosters. And, a reasonably high interest in kids 5 to 11. Be great if it was a little bit better, but we're happy with how it's going. These, Dan already went through these numbers, just approaching 90% on the at least 1 dose. These are our kids 12 to 17. Also, step by step getting there. And then here's for the statewide progress for ages 5 to 11. So also doing great on that. This, I don't know why this just continues to fascinate me, the curves for total doses administered in New Mexico versus the United States. We just track right along that same curve. And then this one was sort of interesting. It's basically cases per day against vaccine. And as Dan mentioned, a lot of times when there is a rise in cases, we actually do see a rise in vaccines, and that is what we're seeing here on the CDC data. On the red line, which is the 7-day rolling average of cases, we do have this, we don't report over the weekend. So these big blue bars are every Monday, which is 3 days worth of cases. And that gives us these funky little spikes in our 7-day rolling average. So booster updates, again, for 18 plus, for people who are interested in the nitty gritty, these are the charts of looking at eligibility and then the number who have actually received vaccine. So, you have to be 18 and over, and you have to be 6 months from your last dose of Pfizer or Moderna, or 2 months from J&J. So this chart actually looks at that group. On the website, it's just all comers, whether you've been vaccinated or not, 18 and over. So we're at 39% of people who could be getting a booster right now. And then if you break it down for just 65 plus, it's 58%, which again is a great number compared nationally, but again, a very vulnerable population. So hoping to see that number grow. We just continue to do great business in boosters. This a reminder that everyone 18 over should get a booster now. CDC took away the shoulds and the mays and all the other, kind of all the subtlety, and just said 18 and over, get a booster. Still can do mix and match. Again, for, there's a lot of providers doing a lot of vaccine in Santa Fe, and we just continue to hear that it's hard to get boosters in Santa Fe. So anyone, love to see more help in Santa Fe. Albuquerque's always busy, Espanola. But one of the biggest things for all providers is just making sure you're talking to your patients and reminding people that it's free. That's especially a big message, as we heard last week, for the kids. And for kids, this is just from the CDC website, showing national data that kids' vaccine is about 16.7%. Here is back to New Mexico data. This is who's giving kids vaccine. So again, our pharmacies are doing great with 37% of the kids 5 to 11 vaccine since it was approved. And public health 23%, and then providers 13%, and IHS 13%. The categories are a little bit funky if you don't, so anyway, and then FQHC is 5%. So the big difference is for adult vaccines, we were seeing about 60% of vaccines being given through pharmacies. So, I think we all sort of had this feeling that people would be looking for different venues for their kids. I mean, some very comfortable with pharmacies, some really looking at their providers. So FQHCs, IHS, private providers, DOH. And here's just comparing 12 to 15-year-olds with 5 to 11-year-olds. So the two curves track pretty parallel. These don't change much week to week. Unfortunately, still seeing, the lag that we've seen kind of across all ages of vaccine, with our Latinx population lagging behind others and African-American behind them. So just continue to focus. These are by age group, focus on them. For antiviral update, the FDA did meet last week, and by a 13-10 vote approved molnupiravir. That's a link if you want to look at some of the data. We still don't have an EUA from FDA, so waiting on that. And then CDC did say plus or minus, but we think our first our first allocation will be about 460 courses, so not a lot. The new time frame for arrival is no sooner than December 13th, so could be, any time after that. We are looking initially with this very small number of doses at kind of a central pharmacy model, which we'll explain more when this actually gets approved. And just a reminder that it will need to be taken within 5 days of symptom onset. It's going to be 800 milligrams twice a day for 5 days, but a fair number of tabs. And then it's about 30% effective in reducing hospitalization. The Paxlovid, the Pfizer product, seems to be, better than that, but they're definitely don't seem like they're completely interchangeable. And I was going to say, it does not look like it's probably going to get approved for people who are pregnant. So something else to watch for. But hopefully the first step in sort of expanding treatments, there are some communities where MAB really just isn't, the monoclonal antibody isn't feasible, and hopefully this will help there. But yeah, it'd be nice if there was going to be more. And then I think most of these did get covered from the immunization team. This link here is to Pfizer trainings about the gray cap, if that's something that people want to do, and this is just the session topics. I think we covered most of this. I think the big message is, vaccine supply. I mean, CDC is not saying that there's a limit, but it does seem tight. They're definitely a little bit harder putting in orders, especially for Moderna. We're having to give lots of data and justification for the total doses getting ordered across the state. So again, the inventory plea to keep inventories up to date, as well as really watching expiration dates and letting the vaccine team know if you think you have expiring vaccines and need help moving them around. And that's just the usual contact numbers. And thanks, that is all I have. Thanks so much for all that everyone is doing, and I'll stop sharing and take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Durham. Thank you, Dan. Team, if you guys have any questions for the team here, please let us know, especially with the new caps and all the updates. If there needs to be any clarifications, now's the time to ask. Lisa writes, how long is the gray cap good after you puncture the vial?
That is a great question, and I do not know the answer, but I will track it down and get back to everyone.
Dr. Durham, I do just want to reinforce what you were saying about the booster availability up in Santa Fe. So keep in mind, this is just app level data, but we're tracking how many appointment slots we have available in the system for folks up in Santa Fe, Espanola, different regions within the state. You can see in the next 2 weeks within Santa Fe County, we only have 11% of our appointments available. A lot of demand in that section. If you look at it statewide, it jumps to 33% of the appointment slots in the system are available. So absolutely somewhat of a challenging location. Santa Fe, Espanola, Albuquerque, those are kind of the hot spots right now. So if you are a provider in those areas and you do have the ability to have additional appointments and you are using the app, please add them, request us to fill your event, and we'll do our best to get as many folks to your event as possible. Wow, Toby, great job. We did 995 shots yesterday at the fairgrounds yesterday. That's awesome.
And I wanted on the like every link, the CDC data tracker is actually kind of an endless number of pages where I mean, I'm often like, how can I get back to the one that I was on? So I think this vaccination trends is the right page, but if not, let me know, where you can actually put in New Mexico and then it allows you to compare nationally, but it does, I mean, there's just sort of pages and pages of vaccine and testing. But it is kind of cool since they added the feature that you can compare the state to the national trends. All right. Well, you're sort of like after all this, I mean, the gray cap's sort of a big deal, although it hasn't actually happened yet. But otherwise it feels like a little bit of just waiting on the Paxlovid, and which is the Pfizer oral antiviral, and the IM, the AstraZeneca product, the IM monoclonal for the prevention of COVID. We don't see an FDA meeting date on those yet, so those are still hovering, and just kind of waiting on that. That'll be sort of the next big thing. Then there's the gray cap, but otherwise it feels like just kind of maybe calming down a little bit in terms of the whirlwind of changes we had. Chris, do you have any updates?
I can share just one quick thing. It's primarily for the public on the tool, but we're trying to make it a little bit easier for folks to find appointments. So we updated the scheduling piece to where you can look at availability within 2 weeks, within a week, or a specific day. If you select a specific day, it'll filter it down to just what's available on that day to make it a little bit easier. Some of those areas, that's not going to be super helpful, just simply because if you look in Santa Fe area and go on a specific day, most of the availability is taken. So it's going to be hard to find something on a specific day. So that's why we're keeping, within 2 weeks, within a day. And then once you select a particular item, you can select the days that they have available. So constantly tweaking, constantly trying to make it easier and easier for folks. That's all I got.
All right, and it looked like Tanya put in the chat sort of a question, maybe a statement. Are you saying you're getting a lot of COVID positive kids coming to vaccine sites?
We are at least 1 to 2 per site, or they'll not tell us that they've tested because they're sick. They'll ignore that and call the next day that their test came back positive. Sunday, we had a big site and we had a family show up with the COVID positive kid in the back seat with the daughter who had tested negative. And because the schools will let the daughter go to school with the test to stay program, they brought the whole rest of the family that was COVID positive in to get vaccinated. So I didn't know if that was just because we're drive-through and they think it's a little safer, or we're catching at least 1 per site and we're running about 2 a week kids.
Wow.
Everybody, or we just asked too many questions and we're finding them.
Don't ask, don't tell. Yeah, I guess I have largely been more at adult sites. So, but it's not something I've heard from our team in particular. I mean, it has definitely come up as a question a lot. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if anyone sort of is aware of messaging that sort of sounds like that is okay, let us know. But I think, you know, the rules do stand that obviously you shouldn't come to a vaccine site if you're COVID positive and if you're a contact.
The only other thing I have is I had a little 11-year-old show up at an adult site the other day, and the state scheduling team scheduled her into that. And she was nowhere near 12, so it wasn't like it was within a week of her birthday. So that is still an ongoing problem.
We'll take a look at that, Tanya. I'm not sure where that's coming from, so we'll try and weed that out.
I asked the mom and she said that she called the 1-800 number, and because her kid had been COVID positive and missed her booster. And when she called the 1-800 to find a booster, they just threw her into my site. She drove down to Harris or somewhere to Corrales and didn't answer my phone call when I saw an 11-year-old in there, and got all the way there to be told she had to go home.
Okay, we'll look at updating the team and make sure we'll try and take care of that.
Yeah, and it does look like a couple of other people chatted in. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's sort of universal, but it does kind of keep happening as one-offs at sites. So Melinda, Ivy, and Rita Aboud both had similar experiences. So there's a question in the chat about the central distribution method for molnupiravir. And again, this is all kind of in the tentative, but we're looking at Walgreens has some pharmacies that do largely mail order, like Hep C drugs, and so basically providers will put in a prescription there, and then that'll be mailed directly to the patient. So obviously there's sort of a downside in it taking an extra day for that mail out process, but that was sort of balanced against the idea that if you took, 500 doses and put them kind of randomly in pharmacies across the state, that, there'd be some pharmacies overrun and others where doses were languishing. But also just the amount of calling people would have to do in order to kind of find out if doses were available. So this is just kind of we're hoping that we won't have to deal with this for too long before supply increases. And as soon as it does, it'll, distribute more normally across the state. But it will not be easy, kind of no matter what happens, I think, with just what, continues to should be high demand for it, given the number of cases we have and just the tiny amount of doses. So I keep saying doses and I mean courses. So 460 courses, but that will be for a week or potentially 2 weeks. So And again, 1,000 cases a day. And then the slide comparing the gray and purple top vaccine, what we can do is, Chris, we usually upload the slides to the Take Care NM website, but we also could just send them out as a PDF so people can have that.
Mhm.
And
That sounds good.
Let's see. Okay, and probably for the people who are getting the wrong age people signing up, at least Chris, it seems like it's always helpful if you have the specific code, right, to kind of track what's going on and see if there's a pattern across the issues.
Correct. Correct. There's a whole host of scenarios in which those folks get in. So we'll take a look.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else?
Hi, this is Carol from UNM. I would just like to request a minute or two with Chris after the call's over.
I've been getting into these reactions a lot, so let me give the thumbs up.
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I think we'll leave next week's meeting on the books in anticipation maybe of having an EUA from the FDA on the molnupiravir. And hopefully the vaccine team back who really understand the nuts and bolts of this transition from gray to purple cap. But please feel free to reach out. Joelle will be back. And then, if all that goes well, then we can maybe take a break over the Christmas weeks. But again, really appreciate all the work everyone's doing and everyone's participation on the call.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great time. We'll talk to you all soon. Carol, if you want to hang on for a second, we'll kick everybody else off here in a second.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Hi, Chris. Before you kick people off, I have a few questions.
Sure.
When did you say that they would be available by? December 23rd? Or was that the wrong date? The
What?
gray cap vaccine.
Oh, I'm not versed on that.
Oh, okay.
We can
Maybe
ask.
it was just in one of the slides then.
Yes, it was. I can ask Dr. Durham or
Okay,
Dan
perfect.
to get you that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Bye-bye.